Candidates running in Venezuela's regional election held their closing rallies in the capital of Caracas on Thursday. Thousands of government supporters marched in downtown to support the ruling party. Candidate Mayor Carmen Melendez. Most of the opposition candidates are running under a coalition after meetings in Mexico with government representatives in which parties agreed to include election observers and discuss lifting international sanctions. It is the first election in which the opposition has agreed to participate in after 3 years of boycotting the polls. Anti-abortion protesters, pro-choice activists clashed in front of the Constitutional Court in Bogota, which is set to rule on a case that could decriminalize abortion in Colombia. In 2006, the Colombian judiciary approved the termination of pregnancy in cases of rape, malformation of the fetus with risk to its survival or risk to the survival of the mother. US President Joe Biden hosted the leaders of Canada and Mexico at the White House for their first in-person meeting since Biden took office. This was the first such leader summit since 2016, being held one-on-one meetings earlier in the day with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador before joining together in a three-way East Room summit. Thursday's meetings at the White House marked the first trilateral get-together since a June 26 get-together gathering of Trudeau, Barack Obama and Enrique Peña Nieto in Ottawa. The gathering took a hiatus under Donald Trump, who feuded with Trudeau and Nieto during his tenure. Hundreds of Iraqis returned home from Belarus after abandoning their hopes of reaching the European Union. They were repatriated after becoming stuck at Poland's eastern border, where thousands became trapped in a cold forest and freezing temperatures. Of the 430 people who flew in from Minsk, 390 got off in Erbil International Airport in Iraq's northern Kurdistan region before the flight continued to Baghdad. Chanting the name of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, thousands of volunteers clapped, cheered as they marched through a school play field in Addis Ababa. The march took place in an effort to defend the Ethiopian capital against advancing Tigrans. It comes at a time when Ethiopia's war between the country's military and fighters from the northern Tigray region is slowly coming close to the city. The Tigray forces, who had long dominated the international government before the Prime Minister took office in 2018, has now approached Addis Ababa. An 18-meter high Christmas tree was installed in Brussels' Grand Palace. It comes as a sign of seasonal cheer amidst the concern of rising COVID-19 infections, and the installation of the tree is the first step in the process of setting up the holiday event that draws thousands of people into downtown. COVID-19 cases in Belgium, which is a nation of 11 million, has increased by 27% over the past week and has reached over 10,000 a day. Hospitalizations increased 21% over the same period, while the use of intensive care beds shot up 28% to reach 557. Several hundred protesters gathered outside the Austrian embassy in Paris to demonstrate against Austria's new COVID measures, fearing France might be next to reimpose curbs aimed at reducing the circulation of the virus. The event, which passed off peacefully, was organized by far-right politician Florent Philippot, who has been at the forefront of the protests in France against the COVID-19 health pass and the vaccination certificate required for many daily activities. Europe has again become the epicenter of the pandemic, prompting some countries to reimpose restrictions in the run-up to Christmas and stirring debate over whether vaccines alone are enough to contain COVID-19. German lawmakers have approved new measures to combat record coronavirus infections. The announcement comes after Germany's lower house of parliament, the Bundestag, voted in favor of new restrictions to curb a surge in coronavirus cases. The plans need to be approved by the upper house in order to get implemented. And under these new guidelines, regions where there are more than 3 COVID-19 patients in hospital per 100,000 inhabitants, only the vaccinated and those who have recovered from the virus will have access to public places such as restaurants and concert halls. Unvaccinated will also be banned from using public transport. Slovakia's government has now announced that it would be tightening COVID restrictions across the country, especially for those who are unvaccinated. The country's Prime Minister Edvard Riga said that the restrictions were being brought in because the situation is critical in all districts. The new restrictions were approved by Riga's cabinet as a response to the worst epidemic situation in the country and overloaded hospitals. The stricter measures could be in place for 3 weeks. Speaking at a news conference in Bratislava, Riga also said that those who had been vaccinated and those who have recovered from COVID would be favored in many ways. Greece announced a variety of new coronavirus-related restrictions aimed at putting additional pressure on those who have not yet been vaccinated. The restrictions include tougher limits on access to non-essential indoor venues and a 7-month expiration date on passes for over 60-year-olds who have not yet had a booster shot. Speaking in Athens, the Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said he believed that the measures would help those who are still hesitant to change their minds and get vaccinated. The area deforested in Brazil's Amazon has now reached a 15-year high after 22% jump from the previous year. According to latest figures, Amazon has lost 13,235 square kilometers of rainforest in the 12-month reference period from August 2020 to July 2021. The state accounted for 40% of deforestation from August 2020 to July 2021. The 15-year high flies in the face of Bolsonaro government's recent attempts to shore up its environmental credibility. Canada was still trying to reach 18,000 people stranded on Thursday after floods and mudslides destroyed roads, houses, bridges in what could be the costliest natural disaster in the country's history. Receding flood waters were helping rescue efforts, but the downpour has blocked off entire towns in the province of British Columbia and cut access to the country's largest port in Vancouver, disrupting already strained global supply chains. British Columbia's Premier John Horgan has declared a state of emergency after record rainfall drenched much of the province's south for more than 48 hours. Mud and water flooded the streets of Sicilian town of Syracuse as bad weather battered the southeast coast of the Italian island. Firefighters reported having conducted more than 300 operations to help the population of Sicily. In Syracuse, several cars were blocked in flooded streets, but no injuries were reported. The lower floors of many houses and buildings were also flooded, causing extreme damage. For years, the crystalline blue water, soft sand of South Korea's Sashikdrin beach have been favored by surfers and vacationers seeking quieter experience than the more crowded options on the East Coast. But since the last few years, fast economic expansion is chewing away at some of South Korea's most popular beaches. The trend has been exacerbated by climate change, which has brought rising water levels, unpredictable weather. Sachojin in eastern Gangwon province is one of 43 such beaches designated as having serious coastal erosion as of 2020. A video company shooting a mock emergency service rescue operation found themselves covering a real-life rescue of a man from a sinking car. The video company was working to produce a firefighter recruitment video on a Sunday off the port of Maryland when a vehicle drove off a marina parking lot into the water. A rescue driver, already wearing the appropriate personnel protective equipment for the video, leaped into action to help the rescue driver who was trapped in the sinking vehicle.
Oh, Jesus.
Tens of thousands of people marked the 30th anniversary of the fall of the eastern Croatian town of Vukovar that was demolished by the Serb-led Yugoslav army during the 1991-95 war, becoming a symbol of resistance and national unity in the conflict. Top officials headed a huge column of people during a traditional march through the town on the Danube near the border with Serbia. The participants carried Croatian flags as they walked in silence. Croatia views the town as the martyr of its resistance to what the Croats described as Serb aggression against the nation. Britain's Prince Charles and his wife Camilla visited the Great Pyramid of Giza on Thursday. The royals are visiting Egypt for the first time in 15 years, hoping to promote tolerance and cement bilateral ties between both the nations. The visit is part of the couple's first tour since the start of the pandemic and their first to Egypt since the country was rocked by a popular uprising in 2011 that was followed by years of political turmoil.
Thank you, that's lovely. Which way do you want to go? You come this way.
French football star Kylian Mbappe and Chinese Olympic champion diver Zhang Jackie become godparents of two baby pandas, revealing their names during a ceremony at the Beauval Zoo in Saint-Aignan on Tuesday. The 3-month-old babies named Huan Lili and Yuan Dudu were both born to Huan Huan and Yuanzi, mother and father, on a 10-year loan from China to highlight good ties with France. Mbappe said that he felt lucky but a sense of responsibility in protecting an endangered species. UK Sports Minister Nigel Huddleston has warned the ECB that the government may appoint an independent regulator unless immediate action is taken to confront the issue of racism in English cricket. Earlier this week, Azim Rafiq addressed a parliamentary committee detailing his experiences of racism as a player at Yorkshire. Huddleston told fellow MPs that Rafiq's testimony was alarming and added that the government was impatient for the ECB to put its house in order. Huddleston said that if the ECB failed to do so, then the government would be compelled to take the nuclear option of bringing in an independent regulator. The comments add more pressure on the ECB Chief Executive Tom Harrison, who is expected to face another grilling later today.
ECB plays in relation to being national governing body, and we've sent the panel around.
Rafiq has exposed a culture of racism in English cricket, but he himself had to issue an apology after it emerged that he used anti-Semitic slurs on Facebook a decade ago. On Thursday, an exchange with former cricketer Atiq Javed was uncovered by the Times newspaper. In the post from 2011, Rafiq, who was 19 at the time, made offensive remarks about an unidentified Jewish person. Rafiq apologized unreservedly for his words and said that he was ashamed and furious with himself. And Rafiq added that he believed that he was different. He was a different person today.